Over my working career, I've worked in a number of countries globally. Australia still remains my favourite place to run clinical trials, and I've seen New South Wales really mature over the last 20 years into a very professional clinical trials ecosystem where sponsors can come from all over the world to place their trials with a level of surety of the quality of the clinical trial delivery, the acceptance of the data that we produce from our clinical trials, and also having the support of the public health system in New South Wales to ensure that their trials are fully recruited and run to a very high quality.
Scientia Clinical Research is a dedicated Phase 1 clinical trials facility. Phase 1 trials are the earliest trials in the development of new drugs, and the trials that we do are across therapeutic disciplines. I'm a medical oncologist, so about half of the studies that we do are oncology cancer trials for patients with late-stage cancer. For sponsors coming to New South Wales, from an early phase trials viewpoint, it gives them a one-stop shop, so to speak, where they can come for early phase trials advice. So we can give advice in terms of protocol development, so when they're at the early stages of developing their new therapies, we can help them design a protocol, plan the recruitment for those protocols and streamline that process. We can then manage their ethics applications and allow that to be done in a timely fashion, and we also can collaborate with various therapeutic areas as we are co-located with the University of New South Wales as well as with Prince of Wales Hospital in Randwick, and can bring in the relevant therapeutic expertise as required. Australia is known for performing Phase 1 trials and trials in general with a high quality, high accuracy and meeting the timelines that are required. And I think there are a number of ways that New South Wales has worked to really provide the infrastructure and meet the timelines for early phase trial development. So for example, in recent years, we now have a streamlined ethics approval process for protocols going through a human research ethics committee that allow these processes, which in some countries can take a number of months, to be much faster in New South Wales.
At Southern Star Research, we're a full service contract research organisation, so that means we can support a biotechnology company or a medical device company in all facets of their clinical trial, be it from early phase to late phase. And we're very fortunate to be located here in the state of New South Wales, where the ecosystem for clinical research really thrives and prospers. And that's as a direct result of successive governments' good policy in supporting the clinical research environment. We find that there's a lot more opportunities in New South Wales for us to do clinical research. We've got quite access to quite a lot of very well experienced clinical trial sites, Phase 1 units, laboratory facilities, and many other service providers that really help our clients can run their clinical trials and do them very seamlessly and efficiently. New South Wales as a state has the largest healthcare system within Australia, and we're very fortunate here because we have access to a lot of very experienced clinical trial investigators right across a whole range of different therapeutic areas. So it means that when we need to bring clinical trials to Australia, we can very quickly connect up our clients with some of the key opinion leaders where they're looking to work.
Australia also has the Research and Development Tax Incentive, which means that it's very financially favourable for sponsors to place their clinical trials and other components of their commercial development program here in Australia, and Clinical Trials New South Wales can connect sponsors directly with business advisory services that can walk you through how to set up your virtual business in Australia and access the RDTI. We've also been very fortunate with the COVID-19 situation globally to be able to support all our investigational sites to continue to run their clinical trials within the requirements of the New South Wales health system. This has been really important for a range of our global sponsors who have been able to continue their commercial development programs by bringing those clinical trials here to New South Wales.
GLC is a contract research organisation that provides full service, which means we provide preclinical services, clinical services, biostatistics, data management, medical writing, drug safety, medical safety, quality assurance, and regulatory affairs. Australia overall itself is very attractive for early stage clinical trials, and there is a continuous improvement in our regulatory requirements, the CTX, CTN pathways. So that's definitely helping to expedite the setup process and approval process in New South Wales. New South Wales is decorated with world-renowned universities who pump out very highly qualified academics and professionals. And all of those come into our companies, and we can see the professionalism, the quality of work is as good as any other country out there.
We run research studies for a variety of sponsors, both locally based and many international companies as well, that look to do their research in Australia. From chronic disease, diabetes, asthma, cardiovascular, through to vaccine research in healthy volunteer and some diagnostic and device work as well. New South Wales offers the entire suite of services for companies looking to come into Australia and New South Wales particular. We're able to run clinical research from the first in human studies at phase 1 through into phase 2 and phase 3 research, and then even into the post-marketing phase 4 research. We're able to offer the full suite of services. We've a large geography, we've highly trained physicians and staff, we're experienced in running clinical research. You know, we really can do everything on the ground in-house. One of the key benefits that the federal government offers is the R&D tax incentive, which financially is extremely attractive for overseas and local smaller companies that are looking to run their developments. We offer a very fast setup process in New South Wales and Australia as well. We can get studies from, on an average basis, 35 days from award through to the initiation visit and the first patient or participant coming into the study. We have high numbers of participants, both with chronic disease and with healthy volunteers that are looking to participate in vaccine type research. So you can do it cheaply, you get a good reduction in your fee, but you get it done quickly and you get it done to high standards. So it really ticks all the boxes.
Clinical Trials New South Wales acts as a front door for sponsors who want to place their clinical trials in the New South Wales health system. We provide free, confidential support for sponsors to access key opinion leaders across our universities and our hospitals, investigators and investigational sites to run their clinical trials, and those sites have high quality, internationally best practice trained study nurses and research coordinators. We can also link sponsors with specialist services, so clinical research organisations where companies need a local sponsor to run their trial, and other services such as biostatistics, data access and recruitment support for clinical trials. The New South Wales health system is a public health system, which means that Clinical Trials New South Wales has very close working relationships across all of our hospitals and with our investigators and investigational site staff. This is a real advantage for sponsors wanting to place their trials because they're coming to an ecosystem that is well connected, mature and well supported from a government perspective as well.
I think our clients, when they come to Australia, they're surprised just how easy it is to do their work, specifically in New South Wales, where a lot of effort and government policy has been put in place to really make that experience quite a smooth and agile sort of process for them, to allow them to get going quite quickly and get their results at the other end as soon as possible. Of course, the big issue at the moment everyone's talking about is the COVID situation, both within Australia and around the world. And we're very fortunate here in Australia, is that the New South Wales government made clinical trials a key priority, and certainly right through the COVID issues that we had here within Australia, New South Wales is always open for business. The government health policy made sure that clinical trials could continue on in an uninterrupted fashion, and I think now Australia has come out the other side of the COVID situation, and certainly around the world people are coming to Australia now to run their clinical trials here, and certainly benefiting from those government policies that New South Wales put in early in the days of COVID. One of the things I think medical device companies should be aware of is the New South Wales government in particular have a very strong medical device commercialisation programs that they run. The New South Wales government for a long-term time has been very supportive of medical device clinical trials and have very good infrastructure in place to really help those companies run their studies here and develop their products in the short and also in the longer term.
In many ways, New South Wales has been an untapped market for clinical trials, both early and later phase. I think they're medical specialists across fields who are key opinion leaders in their field and able to deliver that expertise across disciplines. In being able to tap into the key opinion leaders across New South Wales really allows us to advance phase 1 trials for the state and allow the patients within New South Wales to benefit from these trials that they may not otherwise have access to. For sponsors coming to New South Wales, it can be with the knowledge that the trials are being done by medical staff who are familiar and are skilled in the delivery of clinical trials, but also with the streamlining of the ethics and regulatory processes to make the process as timely and efficient as possible.
For Artis Clinical as a site network, we're looking to establish stronger relationships with overseas medicine and vaccine developers. Our physicians and expert staff are keen to engage as early as possible during study design to help give our potential and future clients an understanding of the marketplace in Australia from a medical point of view and making sure that their studies are delivered successfully.
Because in clinical trials, you need phase 1 units, you need sites, you need CROs, you need labs, you need collaboration with key opinion leaders, and yes, New South Wales have all of them in combination with the R&D tax incentive makes New South Wales a highly attractive and a premier destination for clinical trials. So I would highly encourage overseas companies to please come and invest in here, and New South Wales will take care of you.
Australia also has significant funding available for clinical trials with the Medical Research Future Fund and the NHMRC, and investigators are keen to work closely with companies on those commercial development programs. We have a strong presence in oncology as well as cardiovascular. It doesn't matter what therapeutic area a sponsor is looking to place their trial, we have an extensive database of investigational sites that we can connect sponsors with, big or small, of their therapeutic area. New South Wales is really the ideal place for sponsors to bring their clinical trials, knowing that they have access to high quality investigational sites and the support of Clinical Trials New South Wales to run their program.